Hi everyone, welcome to my channel where I share with you practical tools, insights, and inspiration to empower you on your path to healing, transformation, and enlightenment. And today's guest is Janise Stoliarova. Janise is not only a physicist, but also a dedicated healing practitioner in the realm of dreams, channeling, and emotional healing, with a profound belief in the transformative power of our innermost thoughts. She has been trained in dream interpretation and trauma release by Michael Sheridan, who is an expert in this field. She also studied with Raymon Grace to perform energetic clearings and is a featured Galactic Akashic Records reader through Debbie Solaris of the Gaia Network. Janice's mission is to empower individuals to embrace their authentic selves, guiding them toward a life of joy and fulfillment. Hi, Janise. Thank you so much for being on my channel and doing
Hi,
this
Jane.
podcast with me today. Really appreciate it.
Hi, I'm so appreciative of you and what you do. And so I'm very happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome. And just let the audience get to know you a bit more. First, you are my dream interpreter, and you've helped me so much, not only with dream interpretation, but also just being a strong support in my life and also a safe container for me to transform my emotions. And I'm so intrigued by your path because you're also a physicist, right?
Yes.
From what I experienced, most physicists are highly logical, very much functioning from their left brain. And when it comes to spirituality, and most of them are skeptical about it. Could you talk about how you become open and dedicated to spirituality and healing and shamanism?
Sure. I'll try for the short version.
Yeah.
But I was always very much in my head and thought about everything logically. And I had always been that way. And I thought that that was just the way I was, and that I was stuck in that way of thinking that doesn't allow any gray areas or any magic, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but life went on, and I found that I had achieved everything, academically and career wise, raised my kids. And I thought, well, at the end of that, I should have it all. Um, what else is there? And I may have had all of that, but what I didn't have is joy and satisfaction and contentment with my life. And so fortunately, that's when I finally took a class with Michael Sheridan
Yeah.
and started my journey on trauma release and learned a whole lot about myself and realized that I am this amazing spiritual being who has gifts to offer the world. And through that, I just began to not care what other people thought about talking about these types of spiritual things. And even with my colleagues, I will just talk about what I like to talk about, which sometimes is about how I hypnotize myself or a dream that I had. And surprisingly, their reactions have been kind of accommodating. And I find that when you open up to people who you may not have thought would be open
Yeah.
to these kinds of ideas, they actually have been wanting to say things themselves and they just haven't. So it kind of allows a conversation to start that would have never started.
Interesting. So, did you become interested in psychology first and then to spirituality, or you become intrigued with spirituality directly?
That's an interesting question. I don't know how you would have known that about me. But So growing up, I always felt this immense connection with nature. I was always out in nature. I would just disappear for the entire day and come back at dark just to be out in the woods communing with nature, I guess. And I always did dream interpretation. Just people would randomly come up and tell me their dreams. It's really interesting, which it still kind of happens now. But, you know, as life starts to pile things on us, then that connection starts to go away for many of us. So it did start to go away, but I always had that little spark and it never left me.
Mm.
So when I was about in 7th grade, I came across a psychology book in the library and I started reading it, and it was all about Sigmund Freud. And he did mention dreams in there. And I read that book front to back as a 7th grader, and I was so excited about it. And I thought, I'm going to be a psychologist. And then found some information by Carl Jung. And, you know, it was all intriguing and fascinating to me. But as I evolved on my spiritual path, I realized that that material was way too limiting for what's happening now in today's age and what's happening just in my own realm and the people that I meet with.
Yeah. Interesting. Like we've talked with each other and discovered that we are actually very alike. And I asked you this question was because when I was about in 7th grade too, 14, 15 years old, I got really into Dale Carnegie's books about self-development. And my mom was both intrigued and surprised because she never seen or met a 14-year-old who would be so interested in that. Most 14-year-old would be just interested in playing or maybe interested in like watching TV shows. And I had no interest in those. I had a lot more interest in self-development. And same as you, later on, I discovered that it had a lot of great ideas. But if you don't go deeper and discover some of the blockages or the root of your problems, they will just remain as ideas. And it will be very hard to embody them. And I'm not really in the school of having an image and then mold yourself, become that kind of person. I'm more of opening yourself up to your optimal self. And usually our optimal self is outside of our conscious construction. No matter how big image you can make, and no matter how great your imagination is, I believe that our optimal selves are always beyond what we can consciously imagine.
I love your take on that. And I feel that too, because once you start healing, like actually healing and releasing trauma, you learn things about yourself and you start to get your joy back that you have long since forgotten about. And when that happens, you start to see who you were before all of the pains in life. And you could have never imagined that unless you did some work to release some traumas.
Absolutely. And it's interesting that you mentioned Carl Jung and Sigmund Freud. And I read something about Carl Jung that he actually started as a hypnotist, but he came across this energy of oversoul, and that really scared him. At that day and age, he didn't really have a lot of people to connect with, and human consciousness hasn't really evolved at the level that we have now. So he kind of took down a notch and took the path of psychoanalysis. So it's something that he consciously may be able to understand more. But now we have come to understand that our soul is most powerful when it comes to healing and transforming oneself and creating the life one truly wants and truly fulfills oneself. Psychoanalysis usually can only resolve issues within this lifetime. While if you go into hypnosis, especially metaphysical hypnosis or energy healing, it's able to help you heal issues from past lives.
Absolutely. And it's so fascinating because even with physics, there's a lot of hand waving and there's a lot of, well, this calculation works as long as we make this assumption. And there's really a lot that we don't know about how things work. And somehow we have access to some type of energies that the best way I can see it is parallel existences. But it's like the feeling of we are in all places at once, and we can bring trauma into our current, like this space that you and I are occupying right now. We can bring trauma into it and we can react to that. Or we can also bring healing from these other dimensions, if you will, into this space that we're in to create some kind of healing that we wouldn't have even known that we were experiencing. That I feel like I'm not explaining it very well. It's almost like you can't explain it.
Yeah, it is a very hard
happens.
concept to explain, to use words to define it because it's too big. The universe is too big for our words to define.
Too big. I remember Elizabeth Rose, one time when I had a session with her, I saw her as just this golden being. Like she just looked radiant. And I said something like, Elizabeth, you're so lovely and beautiful and such a beautiful soul. And this was back when I hadn't done a lot of trauma release, but I was able to see that in her. And she said, Janise, that's the same thing that you are. You just don't see it yet.
Yeah.
Now I can look at myself and see the Elizabeth Rose in me.
Oh, yeah.
But back then I couldn't.
Yeah. Interesting that you mentioned Elizabeth Rose. Like she was on my channel. I interviewed her and she was so graceful and generous with her time and her insights. And the other day I was just pondering because I ran into her at Toronto Psychic Fair and I heard about it from a friend. And I was thinking about just somebody I ran into became one of the most important people in my life. And I did not know that until somewhere maybe 2019 and 20 when I started to do her readings more. Before, I always believed that I have the power to create the life I want. I should not rely on other people. But I think I'm mistaken relying on people with going to people for help and expanding my consciousness. Because there are places that only you can go to when you work with a practitioner, when you work with a healer. And that's why when some people go to psychotherapy sessions for years and their progress can be very limited. And I'm not dissing the importance of psychotherapy because I actually went to therapy as well. It actually opened me up and helped me become more aware. But because of my awareness of spiritual healing, I took one step further and realized that, you know what, the power is really in the spiritual healing. However, we're not just a spirit body. We have spirit body, emotional body, and the physical body, and the mental body. So when we bring all these bodies into alignment, that's when we feel the best because we are balanced in all of our dimensions. If we dwell too much in the spiritual or mental realm, we will feel something's not balanced and we feel some confusion even because in the spirit realm, it's very flexible and things can become real in that realm. While in the 3D, it may show you something different. So we need to learn how to deal with each dimensions and have trust in each dimensions. Yeah, trust what you see, trust what you feel, but also be open to spiritual healing and energy healing.
Absolutely. And all of those themes are what comes up when we look at our dreams, right?
Oh, yeah.
Our dreams tell us, are we imbalanced? And if we are, what steps do we need to be taking to align ourselves?
Yeah.
Are we on our spiritual path? Are we meant to be on a dharmic path? I mean, my dreams I rely on them so heavily, and they have showed me details about what is my next offering. You know, how do I use my spiritual gifts to heal people? So our dreams are going to show all of that, what you're talking about.
Yeah, I love that because through dream interpretation, it brings what is in our subconscious mind to conscious mind. And when we deal with them consciously, we're able to change our reality or fate, right? Fate. And Carl Jung said, if we don't bring what is unconscious to the conscious, then what happened to us, people call that as fate. But we actually have the power to change our fate.
Yeah. It's so profound. And, you know, that reminds me of a conversation I just had today about, like, it's about this birth wound healing that I do. And I know that you wanted to ask me about that, but I'll just give a little preview. Many people who are drawn to working in the light find that they have triggers or ways of being, personality traits, if you will, that feel less than positive. And they just live with it because that's the way they've always been. They don't have somewhere to point to, you know, maybe to the age of 5 when their dad left or something like that. Like they don't have something tangible to point to. And so what happens when we don't have something tangible to point to, we can't bring it out in our logical mind. So in the healing that I do, it helps people bring it out because it's not talk therapy or anything like that. It's actually a combination of chanting and listening to the meditations that result in the chanting session, along with some background frequencies that allow the people who are participating in the healing to remember these memories that are stuck far, far back in their subconscious and bring that out. And the way that they bring it out is either by visions. So I've had a lot of people have clairvoyant visions while they're listening to the chanting, and also their dreams. And their dreams have showed so many interesting details about their birth and their time in the womb that they didn't even know. For example, I had a couple that showed that they were a miscarriage first. So their mom had tried to bring a baby into the world and had had a miscarriage, and they didn't even know it. And then the next child, or you know, two children later, they were born, and that shows up in their dream as a wound that tells them everything in life is hard. It's hard to get into life. It's hard to live in this vibration. When I tried to live in this vibration, I didn't thrive. I didn't survive. Therefore, they go about living thinking that everything has to be a struggle because that's how it was when they first tried to come in. So it can be complicated to bring things out into the forefront in order to then release it. But it happens. And you know, that's one of the things that I learned from Michael Sheridan. That's one of the things that I'm doing with you as you're working with Ann Tucker's Soul Convergence program. You know, it's all tied together, and it kind of all works in the same energy realm to get things out there so that we can say goodbye to that which no longer serves us.
Yeah. I was really guided to Ann Tucker's program. Like one night, I went on to Elizabeth Rose's website. And usually when I go to her website, I just book a reading. But that night, I didn't want to book reading. And I felt like there's something on her website I wanted to see. And I found Ann Tucker's information. And I started to watch her YouTube channel. I found it very, very interesting and encouraging and inspiring. And I mentioned it to Elizabeth Rose. And she said, well, you know what? She's my student. And I got really interested in her angelic frequency program. And it was amazing. It's really mind-blowing. I think it's very important when we feel an urge of something that we really need to listen to it and do it, right? Trust our inner feelings. And these are firsthand experiences. And I think, especially in Western society, we are always told to believe in secondhand knowledge more than our firsthand experience, right? So let's say you have a hunch about somebody, and then you share it with other people. And then when someone tells you, you know what, I think you overlooked or thought about it. And instead of really listening to your inner feelings and hunch, most people will just take other people's words as truth. And I think it's very important to build a connection with ourselves and trust whatever we feel is true to us. And that's
Absolutely.
going to be,
oh, go ahead.
yeah, that's a really good way to connect with our true selves.
Yeah. Kind of makes me feel like the journey that I had to go on to overcome being in my head. It was like, you know, AA for physicists. It was such a journey to start to trust myself and to start believing in intuition again. You and I, we both have very strong intuitions. It shows up in our dreams as, floor to ceiling windows and moons and silver and sort of just knowing what's coming next. But having intuition is different than using it. It's harder than you would think. But you and I both know this.
Yeah.
But absolutely, it's so important to overcome the logical mind and allow ourselves to use our heart, which is such an underused component of our being that means so much to us and allows us to survive and thrive and build relationships and feel joy and love and compassion and even begin to love to be around other people. And just learning to use our heart helps us come out of our shell and be who we truly want to be.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I think in today's society, we are so encouraged to be in our mind. And I believe that the wisdom really comes from our heart. And a wise person must be intelligent. An intelligent person may not be wise. And something that all of us of this day and age need to learn is how to balance the mind and the heart. When we are in our heart, we are truly whole. And we see things from different perspectives. But when we are in the head, we only see perceptions and distortions a lot of times, and very limited understanding of us and our relationships. And you talked about you do trauma healing and trauma releasing. Could you talk about what constitutes trauma?
Well, we talked a little bit about the trauma of birth coming into the density of earth and possibly our parents actually didn't want us, or they thought about having an abortion because for whatever reason, they were young and they didn't have money, or there's a lot of situations where that can happen. But we're still aware of that as spiritual beings. We have waited a long time for our turn at taking a crack at this earth incarnation to allow us to heal very quickly. And, we came from a dimension where we were surrounded by unconditional love and nobody would ever hurt anybody. That's unheard of. And then we came here into this very dense atmosphere where our parents, we were born and our parents just turned their back, or even just a wound can be our mother was given medication during our birth and didn't bond with us right when we were born, or maybe we had to be whisked away for our lungs to be cleared out, or for whatever reason. Those are traumas that are buried. People may not believe that those kinds of traumas are a big deal, but they show up in dreams as a big deal, and they show up in life as a big deal. And once they are cleared, people feel incredibly different, noticeably different. Of course, other traumas are a little more obvious. We could have experienced bullying as young children, or maybe our older siblings were mean to us, or we could have a mother who wasn't emotionally available. That kind of thing shows up all the time. I mean, I don't even think that I've ever looked at anybody's dreams where it didn't show that their mother was emotionally unavailable in some way, because that's a big deal, especially to little children who are expecting their mother to just love them unconditionally, whether or not they're screaming their head off or they have a dirty diaper. Mom is supposed to love us unconditionally. She's not supposed to leave us screaming in a crib in the next door because she's got depression or something like that. And we tend to logically think about these things. We say, well, yeah, I understand depression, and yeah, I don't blame my mom for being that way, or I don't blame my dad for leaving because he was unhappy or whatever. Just because we're able to create logic around our wounds, it doesn't allow us to heal from that. All it does is, like you said, create a thought about it, but it doesn't do anything to move that. Same thing with talking through things. It does a lot to build awareness, to build strategies. And yes, many people need medication, and but there's another piece to it that's missing, and that's hey, what's the timeline on the actual healing part of this that's supposed to take place? When do I become happy? So all of these traumas that build up can feel like death by 1,000 cuts. Certainly that's how it felt to me. And even that metaphor came up in my dreams before, about just me being sliced and cut up by various people. And so these are the kinds of traumas, whether they're little or really, really big. They hurt us. They cause us to block ourselves. They cause us to push down feelings of joy. They cause us to not experience life as life actually has to offer us, beautiful experiences. So what I feel like, and we were just talking about this the other day, is this amazing ability for us to take part in our own healing is right there. It's available to us, and it's actually pretty easy. I wish everybody would do this because it works. Whether it's using my birth wound trauma release, or just looking at dreams and bringing the traumas to the forefront, or Anne's soul convergence program, or any kind of work with these energy healers. It's all meant to bring us closer to our to our true selves. And I don't believe that true emotional healing can take place unless we do something like that.
Yeah. I love what you said about little children or even infants, or even when babies in the womb, they can get traumatized. And little children, before they're 7 years old, everything about them is like a sponge. So they absorb everything. If, let's say, a father who's really busy on their work, and the child wants to talk to their father, and the father was really busy and didn't give them any attention, they will think it's their fault.
Yeah.
But the father may not be aware of it, or did not do it on purpose, because that's how he was raised and how he was treated. So little small things can traumatize a child and make them feel like they're not worthy. So when they grow up to get more love from male, they may become a people pleaser, overcompensate, or they just do not like male and avoid all types of interaction with male. People may not relate them together, but actually, even through psychotherapy, it shows that they're directly correlated. So talk therapy can help you become aware of it. But like you said, emotional healing and energetic healing and releasing the memories and emotions attached to these memories are the real work that can really transform your life and transform your relationship with males and how you interact with males. And for the females, same thing as well, right?
Said so beautifully, and from someone who has just done a lot of work in that area yourself. So imagine if you hadn't gone through those traumas with masculine energy, you wouldn't be able to sit here now and understand it so deeply and profoundly and share that knowledge with other people unless you had gone through it yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. My first mentor told me, if you can deal with your parents, especially your dad, you can deal with anybody. And that was maybe 6 years ago. And now I understand more and more deeply like what she meant by that. Our trauma can also relate to like our chakras. Usually when someone overcompensates, their chakras tend to be too big, too open. And when someone's avoidance, in some areas, the chakra related to that issue tend to be contracted. So that's how you can tell whether you're being overcompensating or having avoidant attachment with people.
Yeah. And so I think that you're one of those people who can recognize if somebody's chakra is overly contracted or shrunk. If
Yeah.
I'm not mistaken, I think that that shows up in your dreams.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, you have many talents for one thing. Elizabeth Rose shows up in your dreams, and Tucker shows up in your dreams. I think Michael Sheridan has. And I have too, which
Yeah.
is so exciting. And that's all about the fact that you also have the spiritual gifts that represent those people who show up in your dreams. So, whatever I represent, it might be dream interpretation, or, um, and I've seen those gifts show up in your dreams. So it won't be too long before you are offering your gifts to heal people and help them release what they need to release. So I'm looking forward to seeing that
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah. Thank you. And I think people who are interested in healing themselves, when they heal themselves, they actually unconsciously healing other people too when they're around other people, because their energy actually lift them up too when people around you.
Absolutely. When your
Yeah.
energy field shifts, it exudes outward and allows other people's energy to shift, or at least gives them the opportunity
Yeah.
to do something different. And even when we work on trauma release for ourselves, the healing goes back generations and forward generations. So like our own kids will benefit from healing that we do on ourselves. So, a lot of people think, well, I'm being selfish. I should be spending this money on my kids, or, my parents need this money or whatever. But when we focus on ourselves, that's when true shifts can be made.
Mhm.
Because if we don't think that we're important enough to invest in,
Yeah.
then nobody will.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it has to start with ourselves.
Right. Yeah. And I think putting ourselves second or third, thinking it's a good thing, it's really a conditioning. It's cultural conditioning, but it's also a choice, because you have the choice to bring it into light, to analyze it, and to heal it, and allow it to become what it needs to become, to be in alignment with the truth of the universe and the truth of yourself. And when we become more loving towards ourselves, like we have a full cup of love, then we have more love to share with other people too. And people actually get higher quality of love from you as well. And you wouldn't feel depleted because you put yourself at first.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I think putting oneself at first doesn't mean that you become selfish or you become competitive with other people. It just means that when you have more integrity with how you feel with yourself, then you have more integrity to offer to other people as well. Then you wouldn't fall into the trap of overcompensating or avoiding. And by transforming ourselves, then we can really transform the relationship with other people. Like you said, give other people a chance to transform themselves too. We cannot force them, we cannot direct their life, but at least we offer them a choice, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you also mentioned that you practice shamanism, right? And I'm so intrigued by it. Could you talk about the difference between shamanic healing and other types of healing modalities?
Well, I feel like healing just kind of comes from this matrix that's out there, and we can all tap into it. When we practice different types of healing gifts or spiritual gifts, whether it's channeling or accessing Akashic records, or, hands-on healing, and shamanic healing, which to me, it may not be the same definition of as others, but it's kind of feels native in a way. It feels like something that I don't control. Um, Language and chanting and movements just come out of me while I'm doing shamanic healing. But in a way, I feel like everything is just tapping into that energy matrix that's around us. So I think some people respond to different types of modalities differently. Like I said, if you've got a birth wound, and many of us does, that we're not even aware of, you may respond better to a type of shamanic healing because it's something that's buried, that you have oftentimes have no idea what that would even be, and how it manifests in your life. If you maybe are along your path and you're wondering, okay, what am I supposed to be doing? Not necessarily like, why am I here? Why do I exist? But some of these questions like, okay, I know that I have spiritual gifts. I know that I have a strong intuition. I know that people are drawn to me and I'm a leader. But what does that mean? What do I do with that information? And so going into their Akashic records is often a good place to find that information, because it's a lot more pointed. It offers information that you don't just logically think of. And these are all different types of healing. Even just gathering information about your life path or spiritual path is a type of healing. I know a lot of people who have received Akashic Records readings from me have said after that, their understanding of their path and what they're doing here just opened up to them.
Yeah.
And their energy shifted just
Yeah.
by getting some kind of like higher level guidance. And I can't pretend to say that I know where it comes from. I just know that it helps people.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm not sure that it's really that different.
Okay.
And I offer all of these types of modalities, and I certainly have my favorites, but I think that's maybe why I'm able to name these modalities different things, because it's just kind of a different way of interacting with the person who comes needing guidance or assistance. I'm sure some people will completely disagree with me, and that's okay, because we're all on a different journey for sure. Like, we're all on a personal journey, but many of us are meant to continue going towards the light, so to speak, like healing ourselves and releasing and providing our gifts to assist others. And some people are very much only a shaman, and they're very, very good at it. And, they're very particular about where that energy comes from and how it comes through them. But for me, I feel like shamans are born. And I do have, I'm not sure that it matters, but I do have full-blooded Native American on both sides of my family. And I've been told that that's why I'm such a dreamer, and that I know how to interpret dreams so well, because it's just kind of in my lineage. So even something as simple as that makes someone a shaman. It really doesn't have to be complicated. We tend to overcomplicate things, and we want to put fancy names and fancy titles to some of these modalities. But to be honest, I don't buy into a lot of that. My main thing is that I want to see people heal and smile and be happy and like find their joy. And it seems like such a little thing. Like, why would I decide to incarnate on this earth just to open my heart, or just to know how to have fun or smile and laugh? But actually, think about all of the millions of people who can't smile and laugh, the millions of people who they have everything, but they don't know what joy is. If you ask them, what do you do for fun? I don't know. Like, people can't put their finger on what brings them joy. So it really is a big deal for somebody to heal and feel joy for the first time.
Yeah, I totally agree. And my Qigong teacher said that she come across a lot of people who did not think about what they truly want until they're on their deathbed. And then, you know what, I should have spent more time with family. I should have done more of what I love. And I think energy healing or any types of healing create that kind of space where you can think about what's truly important to you and what you truly want, and not waiting until you're on your deathbed. And I think that's why a lot of people would buy into all of these turmoils that's happening on Earth, and we forgot our connection with the universe, and we forgot our original assignment. And I remember Dolores Cannon, in her books and in her research, she said that as a human, we face two biggest difficulties or challenges. One is emotions, and the second one is limitations. If we learn how to transcend these two challenges, then human experience can become a lot more enjoyable. And I think healing modalities at least works on one of them, which is emotions. It may work on limitations as well, because when we heal, we become more in touch with different parts of ourselves that we didn't have awareness of, and our limitations kind of expanded. So we have more tolerance towards other people. We have more greater ideas. Our intuition becomes stronger, and you have more energy to do things that you want.
Well, and our dreams show us what our limitations are too.
Yeah.
So our dreams are always telling us every night why we're here. What are our limitations? What are we doing to stop ourselves from getting to where we want to get? So it's really no secret. But I think the difficult part is learning to decode your dreams.
That's true. Do you want to show us how you interpret maybe just a small dream, a short one?
Oh, sure. Okay. So one dream that came from one of my birth wound healing participants showed that she attempted to incarnate prior to her current incarnation. And it's only going to show up in your dream typically if it's a wound. And this particular person, once I talked to her about this dream and about what it could probably mean about her personality, about like coming in and feeling like life is hard and everything has to be a struggle and nothing comes easy. She totally resonated with that and said, yeah, that's exactly what happens to me. And I have no idea why, because I've always been that way. And here it shows in her dream why she has that. And so by her doing the birth wound healing, she was able to release some of these things that were hidden. And here's an excerpt from that dream. See if you can understand where it says that she tried to incarnate, but it didn't work. So this hallway had many doors. So I opened the first door and there's no one in there. So I shut the door. Then I opened the second door. And the band, Red Hot Chili Peppers, are sitting there on the sofas, 3 of them. And then it goes on about how she's interacting with this band. So can you spot where it talks about that she tried to incarnate?
The hallway, right? The hallways.
Yeah, the hallway is the birth canal. So a lot of times when the hallway shows up, it's about your birth. Not always, but this particular person was doing a birth wound healing, and it certainly was about the birth, especially when you tie in the Red Hot Chili Peppers, because red is the color of the base chakra. And we were just talking about how that ties into healing as well. So this is definitely about the birth wound. And what happens is she tried a door. So she tried to exit and no one was there. So what that says is that when she tried to incarnate, she tried to exit the birth canal, there was no one there to greet her because she was a miscarriage. So like it didn't work. And then when she went to the second door, she opened it up, and that's when she found all of this great stuff, which even the band showing up is about her being a channel. So in our birth dreams, gifts are going to show up, especially the gifts that we're meant to use in this incarnation. So for her, channeling shows up all the time. So of course it's going to show up in her birth dream. So it's saying like, when you came in, you were meant to be a channel. And by the way, one of the things that's holding you back is that you feel like life is a struggle because you couldn't come in when you tried to come in before. And she didn't know it, but after I interpreted that dream, she asked her mom if her mom had had a miscarriage, and she said she did before this person was born.
Very interesting. I really like the way you channel, not only using symbols, but also you channel as well, because dreams are so personal. And that's why a lot of dream dictionaries do not work.
Absolutely. Back in the day, before I had met Michael Sheridan in the Ashling School, I was so interested in dreams. And so I would find these off the wall books that said, promised to tell you what every symbol could possibly mean. And they just did not resonate at all. Like they were just wrong. Like a cucumber means that you're going to find money in 2 weeks or something like that. Like it's just ridiculous stuff. But Michael's book about dream interpretation just really resonated and really makes sense. And all the dreams that I look at follow that format, even though they know nothing about Michael Sheridan. And before I knew about him, my dreams followed the format that he's talking about. So I don't know what he did. So I know that he learned a lot from George Radigan, and then he took George Radigan's work and then, made it into his own. And I suppose that's kind of what we do as we learn. So now I've learned from Michael, and now I'm able to use my own gifts and find out more about dreams, and specifically birth dreams. So I mean, it's all like a really good natural transition of growth along, the learning path, just kind of like what you were talking about with Carl Jung. It's like he got us a certain distance, and then somebody else took over, and somebody else took over, and then finally there's Michael Sheridan.
Yeah. It's really amazing that the power of healing in a dream interpretation, it's really astounding, just from my own experience.
Absolutely. I wish we could share one of your dreams, but your dreams are really long. But if your viewers want to receive a dream interpretation, then I will definitely offer a special price for them, Jane's viewers price.
Okay.
Because it's so amazing what you can get out of even just one dream, two dreams. It's huge.
Yeah.
So if you have the opportunity, you've got to get your dream interpreted.
Yeah, absolutely. I really believe that we're not only interacting with different energy fields, but also information fields as well. So energy can help you heal, but new positive and insightful information coming, they can also help you heal. They can help you mold you into a newer beings that is more in alignment with who you truly are. I think in Western society, we just valued 3D realm a lot more. And we see everything as so concrete and solid, but reality is actually a lot more malleable. When you change your perceptions, beliefs, and expectations, you change your life as well. And I think as if Henry Ford said, whether you think you can do it or not, you are right. And that's absolutely true, because we tend to experience what we expect. I wouldn't say we personally create everything in our life, because the universe is too big to make that kind of assumption or statement, but we're definitely part of the universe, and we're in the process of co-creating with universe. So which means that whatever happening around us in our environment is somewhat a reflection of what's happening within us. And I love what Michael Sheridan says: obstacles are not in the way, they are the way. I love it.
Yes, I put his quote on my website because it's profound. It's simple
Yes.
and profound and so true. And I don't know about you, but if I'm going to be a co-creator, I want to be co-creating with people who have healed.
Absolutely. You want to co-creating and resonating with higher level energy. And there are people and energy in this universe that we do not want to resonate with. It's a lot more fun and safer to hang out with people who are healed, because you don't have to worry about them turning back and bite you in the neck, right? Because they're more aware of different parts of themselves and their own trauma, their own darkness. And I actually did acting classes as well. And I chose a specific acting class. The acting teacher went through psychotherapy training. So she brings that technique into acting and help you access different parts of you in order to interpret certain character that resonate with that part of you. And she mentioned that Jack Nicholson said, don't be afraid of people who have darkness. Everybody has it. Be afraid of people who are not aware of it. That's his quote.
Good old Jack Nicholson.
Yeah, that guy knows at least one thing or two about acting, you know. I really can talk to you forever and ever because you have like such a loving energy and you're so deep and profound and you've helped me so much. But because of time constraint, we're going to have to ask you if you have any final thoughts or advice, messages for our viewers.
Well, oh yes, I do. First, I would just want to say, whether or not you think that your traumas are affecting those around you, the answer is yes. So just take the step to do something about it, because the worst that can happen is that maybe nothing happens. So just do it. Don't be afraid. You've got lots of people like me, Jane, tons of people out there who are willing to hold out their hand and lift you up and be your cheerleader. There's a lot of people who love you, and you just need to take that first step.
Yeah, absolutely.
Other thing I would love to talk about is some upcoming projects that I have.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So something that I'm really excited about is a service that I'm not even charging for. I met this beautiful woman in my Galactic Akashic Records class who she just started chemotherapy. And it struck me, she was basically the first person that I knew as they were having cancer. Like I don't have any experience with that. And it struck me after I talked to her and realized what a beautiful person she was, that cancer patients are sort of unseen and we don't like to talk about it. And when we find out somebody has cancer, we don't know what to say. And so we oftentimes don't say anything. And their family and caregivers are struggling too. So not only have cancer patients struggled to get to where they are right now, like a lot of things had to happen for cancer to finally take hold. And then their families are here or not here helping them through it. So I talked to her and we kind of came up with a type of healing that's similar to my birth wound healing that I think is going to really help support and lift up and bring a voice to cancer patients and their families or caregivers. So I'm going to start a 6-week, I just call it a support space for cancer patients and their families. And so I'm going to start that at the beginning of January, the first Friday, and do it every Friday for 6 weeks. Mm-hmm. And it's not up on my website yet, but it will be very soon. And all you have to do is register for it. And I like the idea of families or caregivers taking part in the healing too, because although you may not be the physically wounded person, wounds tend to stay in our families and tend to cycle through our families. So we're all wounded. And so I'm just looking at this healing as being a space where people are supported in a way that they haven't been before, and that they're seen and are able to open up. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Mhm.
I'm going to start another group in my birth wound transformation healing starting next year. I have the information on my site, but I haven't picked a date yet because I tend to make myself really busy really fast when I have these ideas. But that's coming up again. It was really successful, a lot of healing taking place, really unique and interesting way to heal and take part in it. You'll have to read about it. And then I teach a class which I call opening your light conduit, which helps people who are meant to channel. It helps them open up to their higher guidance and provides a space of support and practice, and a safe place to open to your light conduit where you won't be psychically attacked or anything like that. We use a lot of different types of support systems to make for sure that it's a beautiful healing space for people to start to speak to their guides.
Yeah. And just from the experience of like working with you, Michael Sheridan, I know like they are like one of the most caring people I've seen, and most experienced people I've met as well. So the advice and the healing they're able to offer is really, really profound and thorough.
Yeah, I agree. Everybody I know who has come out of the Ashling School,
Mhm.
we're all a community now.
Yeah.
Whereas prior to me going into his classes, I really didn't have a community. I didn't have people to talk to about this kind of thing, or people to practice my gifts with. And so it's kind of amazing the network now that is available to us
Yeah.
when so people who know you now have a bigger network. People who know me have a bigger network. And, we just keep growing and being
Yeah.
supportive and totally in the light.
Yeah, definitely. Because I think different people resonate with different practitioners, even though the two practitioners can convey the same message, but one may be attracted or drawn to one particular practitioner. So, wow, very exciting, and thank you so much for being on my channel and sharing your beautiful messages, your beautiful light and wisdom. And I look forward to working with you in the future. And if you have any more programs coming up in the future, feel free to let me know, and I'll be happy to talk to you about it.
Well, thank you, Jane. And I'll give you my website. It's
Yeah, yeah.
gentlehealingdreams.com.
Mhm.
So I'll give you that. And like I said, we'll give a coupon code to
Yeah,
your viewers so
yeah,
that they can experience a dream interpretation like you have.
yes. Very exciting. Thank you so much, Janise.
Thank you, Jane.
You're
Bye.
welcome. Bye.